The U.S. military faces rapidly changing threats on multiple fronts. The nation's never been at war for such an extended period, and it's doing it with an all-volunteer force stressed by extended deployments. At the Wilson Center, one of the Senate's leading voices on defense issues, John Cornyn of Texas, provided thoughts on a strategy for strengthening the military in a manner that keeps pace with evolving challenges. He then spoke with Wilson Center President Jane Harman and took questions from the audience. Their discussion provides the focus for this edition of Rewind.
We are the ideal venue, in all modesty, for this extremely timely conversation with Senator John Cornyn on Ready or Not, a strategy for an effective U.S. military. The threats are urgent. Everybody knows that they are, and everyone knows what's going on with respect to North and South Korea and Yemen and Syria.
This is obviously a critical time for our country. I guess we always say that every time we stand up, but now seems to be more critical than at any time in the recent past. The challenge seems to be, as always in a democracy, people differ on the sense of urgency on both of those topics, the priorities that they have, and the means to address both. Never before has our country been at war for such an extended period of time. And never before have we had to do this with an all-volunteer military force stressed by repeated deployments. In the Middle East, even as ISIS forces are pushed back in Iraq, the ideology spreads like a contagion through their so-called cyber caliphate and continues to permeate the West and attract the vulnerable and the disillusioned. But to address these threats, to maintain the peace and fight if we must, we have to maintain a capable, ready, and modern military. And the truth is, we're not ready. U.S. military readiness and modernization, already under great stress and stretched thin around the world, has suffered under 15 years of continued operations, budgetary restrictions, and deferred investment. That's led to real consequences to our military. If we want to return to a strong American military after years of stress and inadequate funding, we need to start with an end to Department of Defense sequestration. Of course, the next logical question is, if we do that, how do we control overspending, deficits, and $20 trillion in debt? Until we have the political courage on a bipartisan basis to tackle our structural financial problems, we will never adequately fund the military or our other national priorities. So at the end of the day, the only way we can rein in spending, get a handle on our debt, and ensure our military stays ready for the threats facing it every day is to clearly articulate our country's needs and how we meet them. You better believe that our enemies, not hamstrung by red tape and regulations, take full advantage of our reluctance to deal with this on a bipartisan basis.
You said so many things that many in Congress, certainly including this Democrat, strongly endorse, and you kept repeating the word bipartisan. Thank you.
You can't say it enough.
Can't say it enough, right. When you think about when anyone thinks about the risks of offensive cyber, we really have to think in different ways about what capability we're going to use.
Members of Congress talk generally about cyber security and espionage. I'm not sure what level of granularity there is in terms of understanding exactly what's involved. It's a complex and evolving issue. But we know for sure that our two principal state adversaries, China and Russia, are very active. Russia most recently in our own elections, and then even more recently in Europe, trying to influence and undermine democracies.
Do you think Congress should make a bigger effort to debate and pass an AUMF for the actions we are now taking in Syria and related countries?
I would separate Syria out a little bit. I think the president felt like he was operating within his Article 2 authorities in Syria just to do a missile strike to deter further use of chemical weapons. My impression is they don't plan further steps at this time unless, of course, Assad uses chemical weapons again. I think Congress has abdicated a lot of its responsibility in this area. I know every president, whether it's a Democratic or Republican, thinks, okay, I don't need anybody else. I'm the president, I'm the commander-in-chief, leader of the free world, so I can do, and I've got the Army and Navy, and I've got everybody, so I can do what I want to do. But to me, it makes sense to have that sort of debate and consensus building, not only in Congress, but if we're going to put our men and women in harm's way, then we need the American people behind them.
For more on this and related topics, visit wilsoncenter.org. Click the Research tab to find a variety of regions, countries, and issues.